Should your nonprofit be focused on one-time or monthly donations? We've compiled a list of all the pros and cons so you can decide for yourself. All right, here are the main 3 pros or arguments for monthly donations. Number 1. Obviously, this is the biggest one, but predictable revenue. It is really nice when you feel like your charity has some sort of paycheck that you're going to get. If you have a huge volume or even just part of your giving portfolio is monthly donations that have been pretty consistent, you can say, hey, we can guarantee that $27,000 or $5,000 or $300, whatever the amount is going to come in sometime this month. We have these credit card deductions, these credit card charges are going to come out in the same way that a business may want a subscription revenue to help them predict what their budget is for the year. Really nice to have that very consistent revenue. If you're focused just on the occasional donation, you could have a month where you raise a ton of money and a month that you raise 0. That's a lot harder to budget for, especially from an annual perspective. We can say with 90+% certainty that this is the amount will come in each month, then we can at least have a baseline for our budget and use that to have both money in and money out for the entire year. Number 2 is this often is a wonderful way to strengthen the donor relationship. They're having an impact on you every single month, and you can have some sort of a monthly newsletter or communication or thank you that goes out and have different opportunities, even if it's just 12 in a year. That's a lot of recognition and touch points with your donors, and you have all these opportunities throughout the year to talk about different milestones that they hit, talk about impact points, share stories of the things that their gift has been applied to and the wonderful change that they've made. That allows you to have this kind of ongoing connection, as opposed to if someone gives one time and you don't see them or talk to them or ask them again for a year, you have to be very intentional about those recognition and thank you touch points. A good program should have that anyways, but this helps kind of build that in automatically. And number 3 is it actually lowers your overall fundraising costs. A pretty well-known stat that it costs an average of 5 to 7 times more money to acquire a new donor, to find a new person to give to your nonprofit than it does just to keep your existing ones. This is one of the easiest ways to automate and keep your existing donors because they can just be on this recurring revenue that doesn't ever stop. Sometimes we'll implement like it's going to be over 3 years because it's going to apply to a pledge, but for the most part, we want to structure this like, hey, you're just going to give $25 a month forever, hopefully. If you ever want to change it, you just let us know. You can stop at any time. But most people, once they start, will not want to stop if we're doing the right things with recognition and stewardship. All right, here are the 3 main cons of monthly donation. Drawback number 1 is that the amount, at least initially, on average is a lot smaller. People who give monthly, not always, but on average, are going to give less in a year and less total. So you don't tend to get these big transformational gifts, these big naming level gifts to name the new wing of the library or open the new section of the school or fund this new program. Those kind of gifts tend to be either pledged out in like 3 or 4 payments over a couple years or just one-time cash transfers. So we think of this as like a wonderful base for support, but when we're looking at our major giving program, this is not necessarily this demographic. This is kind of our point of entry. This is the subscription model that we sell, quote unquote, so that we can then sell the bigger ticket item later down the road. So it's our donor capture system and our donor retention system, but it's not necessarily our biggest money maker in terms of just volume of dollars. Drawback number 2 is you have a pretty high risk of attrition. Normally we want to ask every few years on a pledge or annually for a gift because it gives us a chance to re-pitch the why, to talk about all the wonderful stuff we've done in the past year and to present a vision for what we want to do in the next year. That's so important because it gives a donor a new reason to re-up their gift. Even if they're giving one big cash donation each December, or even one small cash donation every December, being able to reinforce and come up with a new, exciting reason why your charity should be their charity of choice each year helps. But if they're just giving for the sake of giving every year, maybe they do like what you do, but again, forces you to be even more intentional about sharing impact, about talking about the future, about connecting with that donor. You don't necessarily have a regular interval to sit down with them in person if they're a larger donor. So you have that high risk that they just may stop their monthly donation one day, or they'll get a new credit card and just forget about it. And it's kind of awkward, or it's difficult to go back to that person and say, hey, you've been giving $35 a month. Did you stop? And just the conversation can be super awkward. So we try as much as we can to reconnect with those donors, but it can definitely be a challenge. And the third and final drawback that we've found with our clients and with other organizations is it adds a little bit more administrative complexity. So you have to have some sort of system that does work with recurring credit card donations so that you can automate it. What you don't want is to have monthly donations where someone is manually running a credit card every single month for every single donor. That works when you have 10 donors, but as soon as you pass the 50 or 100 threshold and you have a couple of staff or part-timers or some volunteers, that is so much work. That is a full-time job. You now have an accounting department worth of people trying to process all these transactions. So you have to have some level of pre-existing system built into your website, into your giving portal, into whatever system you have set up to receive those donations, and then send the acknowledgements, track the totals. All of those things have to happen from a legal standpoint. And if you don't have the infrastructure to support that, it's very, very challenging. So you either have to pay for that up front and get it set and built in, or you have to have a team that's willing to support it and build it as you go, both adding quite a bit of administrative complexity. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you're getting value out of this but would like something more personalized, you can book 30 minutes with one of our experts to see if you qualify for our support services. Link below in the description. Here are the benefits of one-time donations. These are the best things about your single one-time cash gifts. Number one should be the obvious one, is that on average, they're gonna be a lot bigger. Not only are they a lot bigger than a monthly donation, like obviously someone's probably gonna give a little bit more in a year than they would in a month, but the total for the year is even more. So not only is that $1,000 gift at the end of the year more, but it's more than the $25 a month that someone gives on average to monthly. So just your scale of giving, your scale of dollars is much bigger. Maybe it's a little bit more work, maybe it's less automated, but it gives you a chance to ask for those bigger transformational gifts. So whereas the monthly is kind of the set it and forget it version, this is the be intentional, get one big cash chunk version, which if you do that a lot and you have some version of both, you can really make a big difference on the dollars side, which is at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do. Number two is that a one-time donation or even annual donation gives a lot more flexibility to donors. So if a donor is saying, well, I do want to give on an ongoing basis, but I want to be able to choose year to year or even month to month what I support and how much. If we try to push them into the monthly, well, just give us $20 a month. They may back out and they may give even less. You're like, well, I can definitely commit to 20, but I'm not going to go more than that. So it kind of pigeonholes them into like a lower giving amount, which we definitely don't want to do. The flexibility that the annual or the multi-year pledge offers is that in that moment, maybe they sold their business or they sold their house or they did well in the stock market or they had a good quarter in sales or whatever that happens in their life where they might have a little bit of financial windfall, allows them to stretch their giving in those moments and allows us to engage and ask in those moments for the larger amounts so that they have some decision-making power throughout the year to either save up or decide to support a different charity if they want. So just a lot more donor-centric flexibility with the one-time gift. And the third and final pro for one-time gifts is obviously the administrative simplicity. So not a lot going on. They have the singular gift that they give. You process that one singular gift. They get one singular tax form. Maybe they give twice in a year, but for the most part, the total administrative time it takes you to process that entire gift, especially given that amount is probably higher, is just a little bit less. We think, oh, monthly is so simple, we just set it and forget it. But because of the complexity of the system, you have to have that system in place. Whereas here, you don't even have to have online giving. You should. It's a lot easier. You're gonna get more donations if you do that. But if say you're just a startup charity, you're just getting off the ground, being able to just take a check, deposit in the bank, make one tax letter and hand it back to the donor and then you're done is pretty nice, especially when you're kind of an emerging nonprofit space. All right, here are the three drawbacks or three cons of one-time gifts. Number one, and probably the most pervasive of the three, is the unpredictability of revenue. We're trying to set a budget for the year. How much money are we gonna raise? I don't know. Last year we raised 400,000. So we're gonna say 500,000 just to go up a little bit, hopefully. We're kind of looking at best guesswork. Maybe in campaign mode, you have more specifics. Say we're raising $3 million over 3 years. So let's budget for $1 million a year. So you can use tools to kind of find your way into certain budgets. But if you're relying entirely on one-time donations, it's tough to guess. If you don't have a lot of program history and a lot of past to look back on and say, well, last year we did this year we did this, our donor base is about this large, national giving is about here, so we can expect a 3% drop or whatever, a lot less predictable. So it's harder for you to justify spending or to open up new programs until you have money. You kind of have to wait to see if the donors support you in a certain way, and then you can do things. So it becomes this very reactive approach as opposed to being able to put people on this monthly recurring, which gives you this very even budget month to month, which can be nice. Again, maybe in this case, your total dollars are more, so you accept the risk of maybe making next to nothing in April, but May is huge. that's a little bit more risk, but with that risk, of course, comes more flexibility both ways. So maybe a drawback depending on who you ask, but definitely something to consider. And the other main drawback, we only have two main ones for one-time gifts, is the higher acquisition cost. Again, if you are great at stewardship and your stewardship plan is super strong, so you get a gift from somebody and then before you ask them 12 months later or 11 months later or whatever that you do to wait, you have 6 to 7 meaningful interactions, you're probably fine. That donor is probably going to give again. But most charities don't do a great job with stewardship, not because they're bad people, but because it takes a lot of time and you have to have a lot of structure to it. You have to build it into a calendar. It just takes a little bit more expertise than just going and talking to people in the way that you could get for donations. So it's very unlikely that someone's gonna do a perfect job with all their donors stewardship-wise and have all of those meaningful interactions be present throughout the process. So it takes that extra intention to recapture that donor a year later, as opposed to monthly where maybe a year or two in, you don't have to do much. Like I have organizations that I support where I get stuff occasionally, but I mostly prefer to give monthly. It's easier for me to set it and forget it than to have to re-engage with a serious conversation. So it's kind of the donor's preference, but on average, it's gonna be way more expensive to acquire those one-time new donors. The flip side is maybe the gift is bigger and it makes up for that. So some pros and cons to weigh both ways. Our final list here is just some strategies to promote both. So if you're saying, well, I'm still kind of undecided, they both seem good or they both seem bad or it all seems overwhelming, here's some overall strategies to implement kind of a well-rounded program. Number one, and it may seem obvious, but offer options. You don't have to choose all of one lane. You can have a monthly recurring program that you set up, and you can have donors that give one time and you kind of focus on that piece. We'd recommend maybe segmenting this by giving size. So your lower donors, your annual giving donors, people who are giving $20 to $100 a month or $5 to $100 a month, maybe put them on the recurring monthly plan or kind of push that lane, make the giving club. But if someone can give in the multi-thousands, we probably want to talk about one-time transfers at that point. So you kind of have that differentiator of like your larger gifts tend to be one time, your lower gifts tend to be monthly, but that's not the only way to segment it. So you want to offer options so that donors can have and see that they have both versions available for their own preferences. Number two is having strong, tailored communications for both. We talked about whether you ask one time and they give monthly, quote unquote, forever, or you ask for once a year or once every couple of years. The big mistake that you can make is then not communicating impact and gratitude in between. So we want to work really hard in both cases to make sure that we are having these regular touch points that aren't asks for donors, so that hopefully when it comes time to upgrade the monthly amount or ask for the next gift, in both cases, they're going to say yes because we've done a good job with our stewardship program. Number three is to be able to celebrate milestones. For monthly givers, this one seems super easy and obvious. When they hit like $1,000, let's say if they hit 5,000, or say you have to support one child in your program, it costs $7,800. As soon as they hit the $7,800 mark, send them something in the mail or an email or call them and say, hey, just so you know, you fully funded one child's program. We are so grateful. Let me tell you about little Timmy who you were able to blank, blank, and blank. So whatever those milestones are, they can be made up, but you want to be able to share those periodically so they feel good, not just about the one-time gift or the year-over-year giving, but what is their cumulative total? What is their cumulative impact on your mission? All right, number four, in both cases, great to leverage technology. There are so many different AI and automation tools these days. We don't have to go super into that, but especially for the monthly platform and even for your one-time gifts, you want to have a really seamless, clean process for online giving. And if people don't want to give online, there should be great information online about the other ways to give. We have all these wonderful tools that range from free to pretty inexpensive that you can implement, and just setting up these programs so that they exist for your organization makes a huge difference in just access. If someone's on the fence about should I give to you or should I not give to you, just reducing all of that friction for them is often enough to push them over the fence for a one-time gift. And the final tip, kind of consider this a bonus tip, is to consider periodic campaigns outside of your normal annual program. So both for monthly and for annual or kind of periodic gifts that you have. We do have those consistently. We want to steward those consistently and try to grow them. But if you have a campaign or a specific project or initiative that you work on every 3 years for a specific outcome, it gives you a platform for both your monthly and your one-time givers to stretch their giving for a period of time, get a lot of excitement generated for something big that they're doing, and then kind of moving on from there to the next tier. Say someone is giving, for example, $25 a month, and you have a campaign where you can ask them for a one-time gift of $1,000. That's great, but then after that $1,000 gift, maybe they move to $30, or maybe they move to $50 a month. A lot of times when we have excitement and we demonstrate impact and we have a successful campaign, our ongoing fundraising never drops as low as it was before we started. It gives us an overall boost, not just in total people giving, but the amount that everyone gives. So run those campaigns periodically enough, specific enough that you can increase your donations over time. So hopefully that was enough information for both monthly and one-time gifts that you can make a decision about how you set up your program. Our best recommendation is to do some of both, depending on where you are in your fundraising journey. Taking that friction out and making it easy for people to give is always the name of the game. Is your nonprofit struggling to reach its fundraising goals? You can chat with one of our experts live for free at pridephilanthropy.com or by clicking the link in the video description.